Musoke Anthony, a journalist with Big Talk Media, was hosted on a radio where I work also. He was hosted to speak about the nullification of where the Computer Misuse Act that was nullified by the Constitutional Court. Shortly after he appeared, after the radio talk show, he was rounded off at the main gate of the radio station at Martin Road. Of course, rounding off doesn't just come with just rounding off. You get some beatings. He was beaten and then abandoned into a waiting Noah, a Toyota Noah, and they speed off. So it left all of us worried and concerned where he would be. And the persons who have abducted him, because they didn't even identify themselves to know that, they are security officers. Maybe they have a warrant of arrest. They summoned him and he absconded, he didn't appear. There was nothing like that. And so we started the hunt. Unfortunately, after some hours, we get to know that he has been taken to Old Kampala police station, where he was taken again to do a search at his home in Lukuli, Nanganda, and then after he was taken back at Old Kampala police station. Fortunately, they gave him a chance to call his lawyer, and Mr. Kato Tumusime witnessed the search. He was there. But in the night of Sunday, he was again moved to unknown detention center. So in the morning, as we went there, we were inquiring, and we wanted to see him. The officers at the station told us that we don't know where he is. We don't know. He was moved in the night. There's no record here. He was just moved. There is no record. So we don't know where he is. And we were, because we were puzzled. We tried to ask the police spokespersons, and everyone was saying, no, I'm engaged in this, I don't know about that, maybe let me inquire and they get back, I also don't know. And so we are in that mess. Yesterday, he was charged formally, but before he's being charged, I had a talk with him, and he told me he was taken to a basement of Mulago police station. Very cold. And he was not allowed to make any call. So, all the police were saying, we have him, but they could not tell us where he is. Well, their action actually is similar to that of criminals. Surely, if you come and abduct, how can we differentiate you from the criminals that we see every day? It is unfortunate. We are not saying that we are angels. No, we are not saying that journalists are angels. We make mistakes, and we also know. But I think it is rather better if you summon me, if you follow the rule of law, if you follow the law, summon me, or come, get a warrant of arrest, come and identify yourself, and then you take me, rather than just abducting a person. So yesterday he was charged with 2 counts. One is publishing false news that the First Lady is dead. Another is sending a distress message that the First Lady is dead. But Council has been talking about the Charles Onyango Bo case. The first count that he was charged with is no longer in the laws of this country. Because the Supreme Court through that very case of Charles Onyango Bo, Andrew Mwenda, and versus the Attorney General, it actually says that it violates Article 29 of the Constitution that speaks to the freedom of press, freedom of expression and press. So, the court, in its wisdom, that is the Supreme Court, found that prohibition of false news served no meaningful purpose. And it actually stated that freedom of expression extends to speech that may be inaccurate, exaggerated, false, yes, and false. So that cannot be, it actually said that press cannot be restricted to only publishing what is publishing the proven true. So the case that he was charged with is no longer in the law books. So you find that the state is only acting out of panic. Maybe important to notice that Arnold told me that all his questioning was, where is Norman Tumuhimbise? So Norman Tumuhimbise happens to be the leader, the team leader of TikTok Media. So their interest is much, is to get Norman Tumuhimbise. So this one was used as a weak link to get Norman Tumuhimbise. Because at some point they even asked him, he says, they asked him to trick Norman Tumuhimbise so that he comes and he gets arrested. So that was the core reason why Arnold was arrested. He was remanded until 14th. I don't know, counsel will tell me. Is it a must that state prosecutors, state attorneys, states, they should object to the bail? Or because every time I say bail application, even with no reasoning, the state will say, no, we object. We object, really? I mean, what is, and then this thing of verification, really, I think the judicial has moved to digital, they have digitalized the EQMI, is it called? Yes. So, I think verification can happen in a minute. You know, the chairperson of the place where the person resides has a phone, a number, you call, verify. It's simple as that. But the state seems to make everything complicated and all that. I want to take you back to I want to leave the case of Arnold Mukose. I want to go back to the elections. We just concluded them. There are not so many cases of violation of journalist rights, I want to admit. There were about 5. Yes, there are many, but not as before. So, and most of them were about physical battling, physical beating, brutalizing, and then bruising the journalists. And there is a court ruling also on that. The Uganda Journalists Association, Henry Sekanjako, Timothy Murungi versus the Attorney General, UPDF, and 8 other officers. You all recall when Bobi Wine was taking a petition in 2021 to the then United Nations Human Rights Commission that was in Kololo, and journalists were beaten, seriously beaten. So we went and petitioned the court, and Justice Wamala ruled that battling journalists or any individual is actually criminal. But it still goes on, and it is business as usual. What we think is the major aim of this is to silence and suppress the independent journalism in the country. They want to take us away from reporting facts and truth to reporting what is in their interest. And this does not only stop at state or government, but also individuals. We have cases where individuals have been beating up journalists and all that. It is unfortunate that even with all this happening, where we ought to be running, we should be running, where we have to be running is the judiciary. But of recent, the judiciary is also turning into something else. I think it was last week, where it might be this week, last week in Kawempe, is it the magistrate court in Kawempe? The magistrate ruled that journalists should not step into her the courtroom with recording gadgets. They should just not. The reason was they misquote her. And then you wonder, if I misquote you with a recording, now what will it be without a reference? If I don't have where to refer to, where I can listen in, and then how will it be? But there is also a court ruling on that. That is the unfortunate thing. That courts undermine the higher courts. The lower courts undermine the higher court's rulings. There is a case of Uganda Court Reporters Association, WUCRA, versus it was let me get my facts very clear. It was, it was Uganda Court Reporters Association, WUCRA, versus, I think the magistrate then of Buganda Road Court was Lillian Buchana. She had ruled in the case of Poteli, a police officer. He was called Poteli. He was being charged with stealing the recordings of the then IGP, that is Kaleka Ihura. And so the state then asked the magistrate that the media should not be part of the hearing, that the case should be heard in cameras. So WUCRA then got in touch with the current president of Uganda Law Society, that is Isaac Semakadde, and they filed a petition where they were protesting the orders. Justice Lydia Mugambe ordered the magistrate to retry Poteli in an open court, accessible to all journalists. The reason then was that, because the matter was security in nature, it was likely to cause disorder in police and cabinet leadership. That was the reason then the magistrate gave to chase away journalists in court. But thankful to Mr. Isaac Semakadde that he led an able team, and then we got the victory. So it was utter shock on my side to see Kanyanya magistrate chasing away journalists because they misquoted her. Simply because they misquoted her. And she was like, no recording, no further recording in my court. So all that is happening, at least as journalists and journalist bodies, we've tried our best to see that we bring an end to this. But what will you do if you do what you're supposed to do and the laws rule in your favor, but those that it has ruled against do not heal to them? They don't. What do you have to do? To keep speaking, maybe. It hurts me because all government institutions are turning their guns against journalists. I want to go to the Parliament just last year, this year actually, they stopped some media houses from accessing Parliament and covering parliamentary business, simply because they ran a story that was against the Speaker of Parliament. That was Nation Media Group. But before that, we also got a scenario where the media was locked into a room when they were passing some bill. Was it coffee? Or they were passing some bill and they locked the media into a room. They did their business. And when they were done with the business, they let the media out. So they choose even when the public should know the business that is happening in the house. So I think it is time. We all unite. It is time that we all unite and speak up, but not only speak up, act and fight for the press freedom, because press freedom affects all of us. Without a free press, we shall be living in darkness. So we request everyone to stand up, to fight for for the rule of law in this country, and we also request the security agencies not to behave in a criminal like criminals, not to behave like criminals, to do their job and be the law officers, to be, law-keeping officers. They should do their work, following what the law states, rather than their needs and the directives they get from the superiors. You know what is funny with citizen journalism, as I end, the citizen journalism where just yesterday, I saw Malema Birizi being charged with broadcasting without a license under the UCC Act on his personal page. On his personal TikTok page, he's charged with broadcasting without a license. When did we get to that, really? So, if you sit back and say, no, it concerns Malema Birizi, tomorrow it will be you. Tomorrow it will be you. It is not going to be Malema Birizi. Today it is Malema Birizi, but once he is convicted, it is going to set a precedent, meaning that tomorrow you're going to be taken. And you will be another Malema Birizi at that. So, please, we need to have cohesion, we need to work together, we need to fight for free press and independent press. Without it, the country is doomed. As I end, on 3rd May, we shall be having the World Press Freedom Day and we shall be commemorating it. So I want to extend the Uganda Journalists Association's invite to you all. Among the activities is an exciting activity of where we have sports, we unite, we speak, we enjoy, away from the lamentations we get all through our journey as we practice. I want to thank you and wish you a Holy Week and a happy Easter.
Thank you so much for those very kind words of wisdom from Mr. Ronald Kabuye, who is the PRO and spokesperson of the Uganda Journalists Association, and he has left us with very many words and words of wisdom to reflect upon. We have come to the close and end tale of this work that we have been doing today. We would like to thank you so much for standing with us, for